Welcome to Wise Pages. Today, we are talking about a book that has changed millions of lives, The Now Habit by Neil Fiore. Let me introduce you to James. He was a 30-year-old ordinary guy living in a small apartment in Manchester. On the surface, everything seemed fine, but inside, his life was stuck in a strange, painful pattern. Waking up late, rushing to the office, pretending to work, scrolling through his phone, avoiding real tasks, and then every night sitting on his bed cursing himself because he hadn't done anything meaningful, again. He knew his habits were broken. He wasn't really working, he was just busy doing nothing. His specialty was procrastination. And one night, lying awake, he whispered to himself, "Is this really it? Is my whole life just going to slip away like that?" That night, something changed. He picked up a book. James started reading. The first few pages felt slow, but then he read a line that hit him like lightning: procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotional coping mechanism. The book explained that behind every delay is a deep emotional trigger: anxiety, fear of failure, or perfectionism. James thought about last week. His boss had asked for a report that was due 2 days ago, but James hadn't even opened his laptop. Every time he tried, his heart would race. What if I do it wrong? What if I'm not good enough? And immediately, he would find a distraction: his phone, social media, anything. The book taught him that procrastination is a shield you use to protect yourself from the fear of being judged. James realized something shocking. He wasn't lazy. He was scared. Scared of failing, scared of not being perfect. He remembered his school days. Every project made him anxious. What if he didn't do well? What if the teacher scolded him? That same fear was still with him, years later. The book's next lesson was simple but powerful. First, you have to identify your emotional triggers. James made a mental list. Number 1, fear of failure. Number 2, self-doubt. Number 3, perfectionism, the need for everything to be perfect. He took a deep breath and asked himself, now what? The book said that once you identify these triggers, handling them becomes easier. So he made himself a promise. From now on, whenever he felt like avoiding something, he would first try to understand the fear behind it. The next day at the office, his boss gave him another task. His old habit screamed at him to push it aside and do something else, but James stopped himself. He asked, "Am I afraid of this work?" "Yes." "Do I feel like I might fail?" "Maybe." "But will avoiding it make me better?" He slowly started the task. He let go of his perfectionism and told himself, "Just start. Figure it out as you go." Within a few hours, he had finished the work, and when his boss praised him, he couldn't believe it. So it wasn't that hard, he thought with a smile. On his way home that evening, he told himself, "If I can do this for one day, why not every day?" But he knew this was just the beginning of a long journey. The next morning, James sat in his small room with sunlight coming through the window and the same book open in front of him. He made a cup of tea and started reading where he had left off. This time, the lesson felt even more relatable. It was this: focus on the process, not just the outcome. James realized that his biggest problem was thinking about the end result before he even began. When the outcome seemed too big or too difficult, fear would freeze him, and he wouldn't do anything at all. The book explained how breaking large tasks into small, manageable steps makes everything easier. He remembered how in school, teachers would say, "First make an outline, then work on it piece by piece." But as an adult, he had forgotten that habit. Maybe I need to do that again, he thought. That day at the office, a new project landed on his desk. His first reaction was the same old fear: how can I possibly do something this big? But then he remembered what he had read. He told himself, "Don't think about the outcome. Just focus on the first step." He took out paper and pen and broke the project into small steps. Step 1, collect the data. Step 2, analyze the data. Step 3, write the report. Step 4, prepare the final presentation. Suddenly, it didn't look so difficult anymore. Over the next few hours, he focused only on the first step, collecting the data. He promised himself not to think about anything else, and honestly, when he focused only on that one small step, the work felt light and manageable. By the time the data was collected, he felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He celebrated his small win. "Wow, I actually did something today, and it wasn't even that hard," he thought. That night, he read the next part of the book. Neil Fiore explained that when we focus on small steps, we get a sense of accomplishment after completing each one, and that feeling motivates us to take the next step. James suddenly remembered his past mistakes. Every time he thought about a big task, he would become so overwhelmed by the outcome that he couldn't start at all. But now he understood how important it was to forget the outcome and focus only on the process. The next day, he tried another experiment. He had always wanted to learn a new skill, coding. But whenever he thought about coding, it felt like a massive mountain. Learning a new programming language, practicing, building projects, how could he possibly do all that? This time, he used the same method from the book. He broke coding into small steps. Step 1, choose an easy language. Step 2, learn the basics of that language. Step 3, build a tiny project. He started with step 1. Python seems easy, he told himself. Then he learned a couple of basic things from YouTube. It might take him years to become an expert, but that day, he felt like he had won a huge battle. "I focused on the process and forgot the outcome, and look how happy I am," he realized. James noticed that the biggest benefit of focusing on the process was that it brought him into the present moment. He wasn't worrying about the result anymore. He was actually enjoying the work he was doing. The book explained that when you are outcome-driven, your mind is always trapped between two things, success and failure, and that makes you anxious. But when you focus on the process, you are free. That night, James thought about his entire day. He mentally applauded himself. He started applying this lesson to every part of his life, from waking up in the morning to the smallest tasks at the office. Whenever something felt big or difficult, he would tell himself, "Just take the first step. Worry about the rest later." Slowly, he saw that he was getting more work done than before, without any extra stress. A new positivity began to flow into his life. But he knew the journey was still long. He promised himself that he would bring every lesson from the book into his life. More lessons were waiting for him in the pages ahead, and James now felt more hopeful about himself than ever before. Over the next few days, James tried to fully absorb the first 2 lessons into his life. He was breaking every task into small steps and focusing only on the process. He was starting to feel productive, but as he adopted this new habit, he began to notice another problem. His entire focus was now on work and projects. He had made himself so busy that he forgot that having fun in life is also important. He was working, but somewhere inside, he was starting to feel tired and bored. That night, when he started reading the next chapter of the Now Habit, the book gave his thinking a whole new direction. The next lesson was this: schedule guilt-free play. James read on. The book said that including fun and leisure moments in your schedule is just as important as working. Neil Fiore explained that when you make room for leisure activities in your life, your mind gets recharged, and you return to your work with more focus and energy. James looked away from the book and thought, guilt-free play? That means I can have fun without feeling like I'm wasting time. He couldn't believe it. He had always thought that if he had fun in the middle of his work, it would be irresponsible. He continued reading. The book explained that scheduling play and leisure is actually a way to balance your work. When you intentionally plan fun, it's not a waste of time, it actually makes you more productive. So can I schedule play the same way I schedule my work? He asked himself. The idea felt strange but interesting. The next morning, James started planning his week. He divided his daily tasks into time blocks, and at the end of each day, he wrote down one block labeled guilt-free play. The first day was busy at the office, but as soon as 7 p.m. arrived, he closed his laptop and told himself, "This time is just for me. No guilt, no work, just fun." He went out for a walk, had tea at his favorite shop, and then sat in a park. He watched children playing nearby, and looking at them, he realized how long he had been missing such leisure moments in his life. That 1 hour in the evening made him feel fresh and relaxed. When he came back home, his mind felt light and calm. The next day, he again made time for guilt-free play in his schedule. This time, he picked up his guitar, which he hadn't touched in years. He just started playing. At first, the tuning felt wrong, but slowly, he lost himself in it. In that 1 hour, he realized that moments of fun not only rest your mind but also bring you closer to yourself. James planned even more fun ideas for the following week, sometimes dinner with friends, sometimes watching an old favorite movie, sometimes just riding his bike without any plan. He noticed that when he put guilt-free playtime into his schedule, he felt more focused and motivated while working. But then one day at the office, he was suddenly given a big project. His boss wanted it done quickly. James felt the pressure again. He thought, where will I find time for guilt-free play now? I just have to work. He cancelled his playtime and dove straight into work. For the first 2 days, he worked hard, but on the third day, the old tiredness and boredom started creeping back in. His mind felt heavy, and he couldn't focus on the work. That's when he realized that he had forgotten his biggest lesson and made the same old mistake. He remembered what the book had said, don't cancel guilt-free play, because it recharges you to return to work. He immediately put a guilt-free playtime block back into his schedule. This time, he called his friend Mike and said, "Let's go out, man. It's been so long." Mike and James sat in a coffee shop late into the night, just talking. That 1 hour refreshed James's mind completely. When he returned home, he actually felt like working. He finished the project on time, without any stress. Now James understood that guilt-free play is not laziness or a waste of time. It is the best way to keep your life in balance. He learned that work and fun are not enemies. Only by walking with both of them together can you live your best life. James's journey was starting to feel easier and more enjoyable, but he knew that there were still more lessons hidden in the pages of the book. He was curious about what else he would learn. James's life was now moving in a new direction. He was trying to bring every lesson from the now habit into his life. Each lesson was teaching him something new. Breaking work into small steps and scheduling guilt-free play had made his life much more balanced. But there was still something that hadn't changed completely, his self-talk. James often noticed that whenever a new task came up, his first thought was always negative. I have to do this, or if I don't do this, I'll fail. Thinking like that would ruin his mood, and he wouldn't feel like working at all. That night, when he read the next part of the book, he found a new lesson: use positive self-talk. Neil Fiore explained that the way we talk to ourselves often determines our ability to get things done. When you say to yourself, I have to do this, it feels like an obligation. That thought creates anxiety and resistance. But when you change it to I choose to do this, it makes you feel powerful and motivated. James read this section of the book several times. He realized that his self-talk was often negative. You can't do this. Your work is always incomplete. You always put things off. These thoughts had become so deep in his subconscious that he had started believing they were true. So now I have to change my self-talk, he told himself. The next day, he decided to run an experiment on himself. At the office, there was a project that he really didn't feel like doing. As usual, the same old thoughts started echoing in his mind. This is too difficult. What if I make a mistake? I'll do it later. But this time, he consciously tried to change his thinking. He said to himself, no, this is not difficult. I will do it step by step. And even if I make a mistake, I will learn from it. I choose to do this work right now. It felt strange at first. He felt like he was lying to himself. But he had read in the book that when you repeat positive affirmations again and again, your mind slowly starts believing them. He took the first step and began working in small pieces. Every time his mind tried to wander away from the work, he would tell himself, I choose to do this now because it's good for me. Within a few hours, he had finished the project, and the best part was that this time, he didn't feel nearly as much stress as he used to. James felt his self-talk slowly beginning to change. Now, whenever a task came up, he would say to himself, I don't have to do this. I choose to do this. I am capable. Mistakes are opportunities to learn. He also noticed that positive self-talk wasn't limited to work. It was changing his entire personality. Earlier, whenever he went to a social gathering, he would feel like people were judging him. Now he would tell himself, I am someone who can talk openly with others. James started including positive self-talk in every aspect of his life. One day, his friend Mike came to meet him. Mike looked at him and said, Man, you seem different lately. You used to always complain about how hard work is and how people annoy you. Now you have a whole new confidence about you. James smiled and said, I just learned a small trick. I started talking to myself the right way. I used to be an expert at putting myself down. Now I tell myself that I can do it. Mike laughed and said, Bro, you need to teach me this trick. I need to fight my procrastination too. That day, James realized that he wasn't just changing himself, he was becoming an inspiration for others as well. Now every morning when James woke up, he would tell himself, Today is my day. Whatever I choose is for my growth. Work is not just an obligation, it's my choice. Slowly, a new energy started flowing into his life. He felt that positive self-talk is a habit that can make even the most difficult task feel easy. But he knew that this journey wasn't over yet. There were still more lessons in the now habit, and James was ready to bring every single one of them fully into his life. James's life was now at a point where he was slowly starting to understand himself better. He had not only read the previous lessons about beating procrastination but had also applied them to his daily life. He was feeling better, more productive, calmer, and more balanced. But he still felt like something was missing. One day, after returning from the office, he started reading the next chapter of the book. The lesson he found this time shook his thinking once again. The new lesson was this: implement the unscheduled technique. James read the first line and was surprised. Unschedule? What kind of idea was that? He read on and tried to understand. This technique meant making your schedule backwards, meaning, first plan your fun and leisure moments, and then find time for work in between them. In other words, play first, then work. This feels backwards, James thought. The book explained that when you first plan the things you love, like watching a movie, spending time with friends, or going out, you can enjoy them without any guilt. Then, with the time that remains, you can focus on your work with more energy and focus. James closed the book and said to himself, All right, let's try this today. The next morning, he started making his new schedule for the week. But this time, he didn't start with work. He first planned his fun activities. Monday evening, go for a run in the park. Tuesday, watch his favorite web series. Wednesday, go to a cafe with friends. Thursday, read a new book. Friday, practice guitar. After planning all of these, he divided the remaining time into small blocks where he scheduled his work. Now let's see how this works, he thought. The first day, after working on a project at the office, he was supposed to go for a run in the park. Normally, after returning from the office, he would feel tired and think, "It's been a work day, just go to sleep." But this time, he was actually looking forward to the run. When he reached the park and felt the cool breeze, he found a kind of peace inside. He spent half an hour there, and when he returned home, he felt completely recharged. He had a new energy inside him. He worked on a small part of his project in the remaining time, and he finished that work without any pressure. He was surprised to realize that he had gotten more work done in less time. The next day, he followed the same schedule. The book was right. When you plan your fun and leisure moments first, your mind becomes guilt-free. And when it's time to work, you finish it quickly and with focus because you know that another break is coming. One day at the office, his colleague Tom came up to him and said, "Man, you look so chill these days. I used to always see you stressed after work. Now it seems like you're finding time to have fun along with your work. What's going on?" James laughed and said, "I learned a new method. Plan your fun first, then make time for work. It sounds backwards, but it works." Tom said, "But doesn't putting fun first delay your work?" James replied, "Not at all. Actually, when I know I've already planned my fun time, I focus on work much better. And the best part is, I don't feel guilty about wasting time anymore." Tom listened carefully and said, "That sounds interesting. I should try it too." James realized that this technique wasn't just making him more productive, it was also giving him the chance to actually live every moment of his life. For the first time, he felt that work and fun could go together in balance. By the end of the week, he looked at his schedule. He saw that he had completed all his work for the week, and at the same time, he had done something every day that made him truly happy. He felt that the unscheduled technique had not only helped him get more work done but had also significantly reduced his stress. Now every Monday when James planned his week, he would schedule his fun and leisure moments first. He would look at his schedule and smile because he knew that every day, he would get to do something that he genuinely loved. But he knew that the journey of the now habit wasn't finished here. More lessons were waiting for him, and James was completely ready to bring them into his life. When James closed the final chapter of the now habit, he felt like he had completed a long journey. Every lesson had changed his life in some way. What he had learned about fighting procrastination wasn't just a collection of book lessons, it was a whole new way of living. He remembered how he had started this journey. Avoiding every task, having no confidence in himself, and lacking balance in his life. But now, he had become a different person. From the first lesson, that procrastination is a symptom, not a cause, he had learned that procrastination isn't just an external problem. It is the result of inner fears, insecurities, and perfectionism. He identified those fears and learned to work with them. The second lesson, focus on the process, not just the outcome, taught him to break any big task into small pieces. He started paying attention to the process, and slowly, he realized that the results started improving on their own. Then, scheduling guilt-free play gave his life a new direction. He realized that taking breaks in between work and making time for happiness isn't a sign of laziness, it's an essential practice. By adding moments of fun to his life, he not only increased his productivity but also got his happiness back. The lesson on using positive self-talk taught James to talk to himself in a better way. He replaced his negative thoughts with positive affirmations. Now he tells himself, I am capable. I can do this. I choose to do this work. This small change strengthened his self-belief and turned work from a burden into a choice. Then came the unscheduled technique, which taught him another important thing. He realized that prioritizing fun and leisure and then finding time for work is far better than traditional time management. He felt that when your mind is happy and recharged, working becomes more enjoyable and you get more done in less time. Throughout this journey, James didn't just change his habits, he completely changed the way he thinks and lives. His life no longer had that old restlessness or the habit of putting things off. One evening, as he sat in his room, he looked at his schedule and smiled. Every day, he had created a balance between work and fun. His days were no longer filled with just to-do lists. Every day gave him a chance to do something for himself. As he placed the Now habit back on his bookshelf, he thought, the book is finished, but its lessons will always remain a part of my life. A few days later, he started working on a project with a new team at his office. The other members of his team were often stressed about work. James shared his experiences with them and taught them the techniques from the Now habit. Slowly, his team members also started feeling less stressed and more productive. One day, his boss said to him, James, I've seen you work before, and now you seem so much more organized and focused than before. How did this change happen? James smiled and replied, Sir, I just started looking at work from a new perspective. I no longer see work as an obligation. And the most important thing is that I've learned to create a balance between work and life. His boss said, maybe we should share your techniques with the whole team. That day, James realized that he hadn't just changed his own life, he had become an example for others as well. Now, whenever he gets a new project or faces a challenge, instead of panicking, he remembers the techniques he has learned. He knows that by breaking every challenge into small pieces, keeping his thinking positive, and making time for fun, he can easily complete any task. James's journey didn't end there. He realized that learning and growing never stops. He still reads new books, adopts new ideas, and tries to make his life better every single day. And the most special thing is that he has become friends with himself. Now he tells himself, you can do so much. Just one step every day. That is how the Now habit changed James's life. And he didn't just adopt this change, he lived it every single day. James's life started changing from the day he began reading the Now habit. Before, he would put off every task, didn't believe in himself, and was always stressed. But every lesson from this book taught him something new and gave his life a new direction. In the beginning, he learned that procrastination isn't just an external problem, it's the result of deep emotions inside. He understood that fear, insecurity, and perfectionism were the real reasons he delayed things. This realization gave him his first chance to change his habits. He identified his emotions and started dealing with them. Then he learned that to complete a task, it's more important to focus on the process rather than just the outcome. He started breaking big tasks into small pieces and appreciated himself for every small step. This method not only gave him less stress but also gave him a kind of satisfaction while working. Soon, he realized that giving himself breaks and planning fun moments is also a part of the work. He added moments to his day that gave him happiness and peace. He enjoyed his favorite activities without guilt and found that after these breaks, his mind worked with more energy and focus. Then he learned how to change his thinking. He realized that his self-talk was often negative. Thoughts like I can't do this or this is too difficult had become rooted in his mind. He replaced them with positive affirmations. Now he tells himself, I choose to do this, and I can do this work. This change boosted his confidence and gave him a new perspective to approach every task. After that, he gave his schedule a complete makeover. He adopted the unscheduled technique, where he first planned his fun and leisure moments, and then prepared blocks for work in the remaining time. This backwards schedule not only gave him guilt-free fun but also made his work more productive. After adopting all these lessons, James felt that his life now had balance. He made room for both work and fun, changed his thinking, and learned to trust himself. His procrastination problem now felt like something from a distant past. He didn't just fix his habits, he changed his entire outlook. Now whenever he faces a new challenge, instead of panicking, he plans to take small steps. He has understood that big problems can only be solved when you break them into small pieces. He tries to make his life better every day and has become an inspiration for others. The now habit didn't just pull James out of his procrastination problem, it made him into a person who can now live his life with happiness and balance. So that was our book summary for today, friends. How did you like it? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. This is Wise Pages signing off. See you in the next video.